Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's episode of AskCindy. AskCindy is a weekly show every Tuesday at 8 p.m. where we take the questions that our entrepreneurs, solo entrepreneurs, startup founders, and wannabe entrepreneurs have about their business or their business idea. And we try to answer that using the collective experience that we have on our team and even on the personal level. Um, Tonight's topic is quite interesting. But before we get in there, let me introduce myself. My name is Cindy Burdette. I'm the CEO and co-founder of AllCare. AllCare is the first and only digital benefits membership platform that allows small companies, startups, and even solopreneurs like freelancers and gig workers to get access to very, very relevant worker benefits. If you want to know more about AllCare, visit www.allcare.ph. All right, let's get into it. For tonight's episode, we have to talk about something that's really important, but we don't talk about it enough. And our topic is talking about mental health in the workplace, right? So, this pandemic has created a lot of discussion, a lot of talk around mental health. Being cooped up in our house for 2 years, some even more, yung iba nga hanggang ngayon, di ba, have really elevated the discussion on mental health. However, as we all return to the new normal or return to our normal, typical work setup, we have to ask ourselves, what does talking about mental health look like? What does a company that wants to espouse openness with mental health look like? What do they do? And what are some of the things that we do in AllCare to really open ourselves up in talking about mental health? So before we take on any questions, let me share about something, or let me share about what I think about mental health. Now, if you've been following me on social media, or if you've been following AskCindy, and I think we did a great episode last week on routines, you would have heard that I'm a very active person and I'm a very outdoorsy person. What I did not share there is I've had my own battles with mental health concerns, right? I won't make the declaration that I'm a depressed person because I haven't been diagnosed. But like many of my fellows, especially fellow entrepreneurs, I've gone through seasons where I really felt like the day doesn't just mean anything to me anymore. Okay? So I kind of understand the importance of really talking about mental health. And for somebody that has had experience through it, especially somebody having gone through cognitive behavioral therapy many years ago, I kind of know how important. I can't say I fully understand the breadth of the challenge of dealing with mental health, but I can say that it's important to talk about it. Now, we need to note that AllCare, we are not, and especially myself, we are not licensed to conduct anything with regard to mental health services or mental health treatments, diagnosis, whatever. So what have you know? We are sharing from our personal experiences, especially as a culture within AllCare. So yeah. And having led many types of teams across many years, including the one that we are leading now in AllCare, where people do come and say that they're dealing with something, it really reminds me, and I want to emphasize this, the importance of being open to talk about mental health. Now, it's so interesting here in the Philippines, we don't really look at mental health the way we look at physical health. When somebody is feverish, we will let that person take the day, SL, di ba? But when somebody is not in the right headspace, ang sinasabi natin, nagdradrama ka lang. Or, ba yan, ang hina mo naman, weak, problema lang eh. Pag pinagdadaanan lang yan, di ba? And it's so interesting because the brain is physical, right? The things in our head are neural networks, they're physical. And yet we don't look at it the same way that we do our obvious physical health. So I really think, and if you're watching this episode and you're an entrepreneur, you lead the team, you run a business, I highly encourage you lead the charge in being open about talking about mental health. Okay. All right. So there. Okay. Let's get to some questions from the audience, right? So let's see what some of the questions are. So here's one, very interesting. With remote and hybrid work setups, how do you ensure that your employees' mental health is taken care of? Very, very interesting question. Okay. So I can only answer this from our culture, from our initiatives and our activities in All Care and the teams that I lead, right? So you may or may not be doing something similar, and that's all right. My goal here in this episode is to give you guys an insight of what we do, and maybe if you don't have anything that you're doing, if you're not doing anything yet, or what you're doing is you're finding ineffective, maybe you want to try something from what we're going to share tonight. Okay, so number one, it's very important to cultivate an environment of trust in the team. Okay, so in All Care, if you've been following us in AskCindy, you probably know how personal we can get in the team. And a lot of that comes from our culture of personhood, caring about the personhood, caring about radical candor. You need to care personally and care deeply at that so you can challenge directly. Now in All Care, we're very personal. We look at the person not just for the work and the output that they contribute, but we look at them with their entire being. If you come to work in All Care, we are taking on you and your entire baggage. Is it a little bit too much? Maybe for you, but not for us. Because for us, we believe that if you have problems at home, we cannot expect you to perform in your absolute bestest at work. Because you're dealing with something at home. More so if you're dealing with something here, right? So number one, I would say in All Care, we really intentionally cultivate an environment of trust. And that goes with communication. So, we use the term open door policy, but we don't have doors. It's just, you need to talk to me. You're dealing with something. You have money problems. You need to borrow. You're feeling confused about your work. We're one Slack message away. We're one Zoom meeting away. So that's one of the things that we really, really do. Number two, we normalize talking about problems as a team. So not only are we creating that environment of trust, both at an individual level and at a team, we go further by normalizing talking about your problems. You break up with your partner, we'll talk about that. And not in an irritating, we know what to do kind of way, but more so like just going through it with you, crying with you. Sometimes we're not saying anything, we're just there with you, sitting in the office, right? Sometimes we're just gonna offer to take some of your workload from you kasi alam namin pinagdadaanan ka. Diba? So, in that way, we normalize talking about problems. We normalize crying in meetings. During our Monday huddles where we talk about what happened over the weekends, it's not always fun. It's not always rosy stories. Minsan yung mga sinishare doon, it's nag-away mag-asawa. Minsan sinishare doon, nag-away mag-ina, mag-ama. And that's okay. We normalize that. We talk about those problems because again, you are coming to work as yourself, not as Cindy, just the CEO part of you. You're coming in as Cindy with your multi-dimensional personhood, right? Your person, when it comes, it's complete. So we normalize talking about problems. We normalize celebrating things, even at the personal. Graduate yung anak mo, we'll celebrate that. Diba? This weekend, di mo sinagawan yung anak mo, we'll celebrate that, right? We are very open with all of those things. And I think one of the more practical ways we do it is we don't count leaves. So that's probably gonna be like, what? You don't count leaves? Yeah. We are a highly results-oriented workplace. Now that's a double-edged sword. That means if you are a performer and you come to me and you say, Sin, I really need to take a couple of days off because I don't feel like myself. There's something happening at home. I'm not ready to share right now, but I really just need to take a couple of days off. Nobody's gonna go to me and say, ay, hindi pwede, na-maximize na eh. 11 days na siya eh, 11 days lang yung leave niya. Wala kaming ganun. Okay. You need a day, take it. You need 2 days, take it. My assumption is you know exactly you're mature enough to go into that 2-day break knowing you're either gonna leave work behind and you've made the adult and mature step of coordinating with your teammates what's gonna happen with that work you're gonna leave behind, or conscious ka na you kind of catch up on work ahead because you're about to take the 2 days off. Or when you come back, you're gonna double down because you're gonna be in a better state, diba? These are the things that I expect fully engaged, thinking, responsible, accountable people will do in my team. Okay. So when somebody says, dude, I'm just gonna take the morning off. And meron ka natin. Text sa akin, 8 a.m. Pre, sorry, talagang just not in a good place right now. I'll tell you later. Wala na yung debate, di ba? Parang replyan ko lang yan lang, okay, dude, I hope everything's okay. Diba? And then, when I say like, dude, sorry, I need to reschedule our meeting. Something came up at home. I'm not ready. Wala na rin tanong-tanong yung mga yan. Yung mga tao na iintindihan din. So, now ang tanong, actually, walang tanong doon, pero ito yung tanong. Scalable ba yun when we go to 100 employees? I don't know. Right? But what I know is our team's gonna triumph to protect that culture, to be vanguards of culture, so that even if we do get to 100 employees, when we do get to 100 employees, we'll keep that culture of openness, of normalizing talking about personal problems, normalizing talking about things like your problems when you're ready, not thinking about taking mental days off as something that you need to earn and that we're counting against your leaves, diba? And ultimately, if they're fully engaged as individuals, they know what they're doing. If they take a day or two off because of where they're at mentally, that should be fine. Because when they come back 100%, they're gonna double down and it's like they were never gone. So, yun yung mga things that we do both remote. And then we really cultivate an environment of trust, communication, and openness. That we find the things that we do quite useful. So, yeah. Okay, let's take another question. With a lot of available sources on mental health during the pandemic, were mental health concerns easier or harder to address? Now again, we aren't professionals. I can't really say that we've addressed mental health, right? Hindi ko masasabi na we are intentionally addressing it because all we're really trying to do as a team in All Care is trying to be good people to one another. We're trying to be understanding of one another. We're trying to recognize and continually cultivate the fact that people are coming with sometimes hindi rose-tinted lens yung gamit mong perspective. People have problems, people have baggage, people have anxieties, diba? Some are depressed, some have family problems, some are sleeping on the floor because they got kicked out of the bedroom. That's the reality. And so I wouldn't say that we're addressing those things, it's just that we recognize those things are real. And we do our best to be the person that we would want to be if we were going through that. Now, with the availability of online sources, was it easier to talk about those things? I don't really know. Like the problem with the internet is it creates so many pseudo experts, right? When you're and ito yung isang ito ko, I struggle with this, diba? When I'm feeling down, depressed na ako. And parang napapaisip ka, mas mag-google ka, no? Signs of being clinically depressed. And that's not how to go about it, right? We need to seek professional help if we feel that we have symptoms. Just the way if we're feverish, 3, 4 days ka nang may lagnat, you're not feeling well, you're not eating right, you can't eat, you can barely drink, your throat hurts, your lymph nodes are enlarged, you gotta see a professional. So if it's been days that you feel meh, you don't feel like you want to work, you feel like you've lost the will to live, and you're just floating in space, maybe those are symptoms. Do not turn to the internet. Go to a professional. Fortunately, if your company is subscribed to All Care, or if you're a member of All Care, there are several ways for you to take advantage, diba, without physically going to a professional. Number one, we have our online assessment where you take the test and it provides you a survey of you are quite predisposed or inclined towards certain mental condition. Number one. Number two, we also offer free mental health counseling through our licensed, accredited professional provider, mental health services provider. We work with both Maygolana and we are onboarding another provider called Empath, and then yung mental assessment is brought to you by Vanguard. No? So, yon. So, I don't really know if it's been easier or harder to deal with. It's just, I think there's more clutter now. And perhaps that being said, it's a little harder because you have like a lot of pseudo experts and you have less people wanting to seek professional help because they think Google has answered their problems. No? So, again, if you feel bad, if you feel like your elbow hurts, your joints hurt, you'd probably see a professional. You have to do the same thing when it comes to your mental health. Normalize seeking professional help. Seeking professional help doesn't mean you're crazy, and I don't mean to use that in a derogatory way. But at the same time, going to a psychologist or psychiatrist's office doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It's just you're seeing the doctor to make sure you're okay. Or if you're not okay, then they can help you get to the point where you will be okay. Okay. Ayan. Too many okay's. All right. Next question, please. How can organizations build a positive culture around mental health as part of their overall approach to employee experience? Wow. How can organizations build positive culture around mental health? Honestly, ma'am, girl, whoever's asking this, it starts with the leadership team. If you have leaders that are oversimplifying mental health, if you have leaders that are minimizing the impact and importance of mental health, if you have leaders that are using derogatory terms, politically incorrect terms when it comes to mental health, then it's going to be hard to say that you have a culture of openness in talking about mental health, right? It is going to be hard because the pillars of culture start with your leadership team. They need to espouse that at a very high level. Ideally, everybody espouses it at a high level, but more so the leadership team. So if you don't have that, you need to start with creating competencies across your leadership team, your management, your middle management team about handling mental health topics. So listen very carefully. If you're an entrepreneur, you're leading big teams, small teams, what have you, and you want to be equipped about leading teams with some level of openness to talk about mental health, PM me. I know a group of trainers that can help you in this area. Hindi all care because this is not our competency. But I know a number of providers that can teach your leadership team, can equip your leadership team, your middle management team, your supervisory team on how to lead with sensitivities around mental health. So there. So my answer here, first and foremost, is the leadership. The leadership team need to espouse that openness and that positive culture around. Pero kung sila mismo tabla, di ba? Sa kanila mismo taboo, unfortunately, it's gonna be an awful one. Yan. Okay. Maybe let's take one or two more questions. Ito, interesting. May banggit na boss eh. So, uh, may pinaghuhugutan. When dealing with a boss that's known to trigger stress and anxiety among teammates, what the best approach? Okay, walang black and white answer dito. So, but let's assume that this boss was me, kunwari. So, shout out dun sa mga direct reports ko na think I'm stress and anxiety inducing. Okay, so what's the best approach if my boss is triggering my stress and anxiety and even other disorders or other mental health challenges? Number one, I sincerely hope and pray that you belong to a company where you can talk to your boss. Okay. I sincerely hope that you have a culture in your company where you can verbalize your concerns. I believe the job of a leader is to take away any distractions, any stumbling block, any challenges that an employee or a direct report is going through that makes them unable to perform in their absolute best. No? So if I'm the one triggering that stumbling block, that challenge for you to perform in your absolute best, because I'm triggering your anxiety, for example, I sincerely hope that you belong to a company where you can say, boss, look, it's hard when you shout because it stops me from thinking. I go into the place where I'm just afraid of you. If you're upset, you can be upset, but try not to shout. Yeah. And I hope that you belong in a place where you can talk about that. Number one. Number two, if it's not the culture in your company to be straightforward and forthcoming about those challenges with your boss, then unfortunately you will have to go to the appropriate channels, and that includes HR. You need to express to HR that your psychological safety as an employee is being put at risk because your boss does not know how to handle your psychological needs. And I sincerely hope that your HR, at the very least, your HR knows how to handle that kind of scenario, that they have that sensitivities in dealing with mental health issues, mental health discussions. Now, kung hindi pa din, so you go to your immediate supervisor and that's not an option. You look at HR and that's still not an option. Don't go to your teammates. Kasi for me, parang if you rant sideways, that's rumor mongering. Diba? Like, yeah, sure, you can get comfort, you can get support, but if you talk crap about your boss to another person, that's not good, diba? That's why I prefer that you go to the right and appropriate channels. Kung talagang wala, then you reflect. Are you in a company where you feel you are psychologically safe, or you feel that your needs and the sensitivity and the nuances of dealing with you, given your condition, if you do have any, are recognized, and there is a right way and space for you to operate? Kasi kung wala, then maybe it is a opportune time to consider looking for that next adventure. Hiring kami sa All Care, by the way. Ayan. Maybe one last question before we wrap things up. Okay. How do I take care of my mental health as a CEO, as an entrepreneur? If you catch the previous episode, which we did June 1, May 31 pala. Wala nang alam sa date. If you can catch that episode, it's gonna be on our social media pages, right? Check it out, because in talking about routines, you'll note there that I intentionally built into my weekly and daily routine things that protect my mental health. There are things that are non-negotiables for me to make sure I put up safety nets, safety guards in my mind. When the going gets tough, I have something to protect my sanity. No. An example of that is my morning routine. It's important to me because Every day as an entrepreneur, every day we are confronted with challenges left and right. Just today, I feel it's been a very, very long day. I feel so exhausted. Talagang, kumbaga, I'm spent. And then I'm doing this show. And again, this is to give back to all the learning that the universe has given me, the communities have given me. So medyo patang-pata na ako, but I go down, I make myself a cup of good coffee. Uh, I sit, I quiet down, I check the news. I just ground myself in reality. I ground, and sometimes I even check pictures of myself in like our recent escapades, ganyan. When I was in the motorcycle or I was in the camp, and that grounds me again. Now, okay, you are not your work. You are not the output of your role and function. You are a person. You have a job. You have a business, but that's not who you are. Okay? And then that helps me to say, okay, I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to accomplish this because, I am running a business. But later on, tomorrow morning, I get to do things that again ground me to me. Diba? So, catch that. And, hindi ko nabanggit doon, but very specific to keeping myself conscious and aware of my mental health needs, is having a very strong support group. Okay? Now, as entrepreneurs, it is common to be very lonely. It's very common to be lonely because you're always doing things. You need to focus and do things. And so because you're focusing, you're losing touch with your core group. You're losing touch with your friends. Let me encourage you, if you're that person, one meal across 27, 24, 21 meals throughout the week, spend it with somebody you care about, spend it with somebody you feel will add some life to your soul. Okay. Keep a core group. You don't have to have 100,000 friends on Facebook. Right? You need to have a few that are easy to reach out to, that knows you, understands your context, and then kahit hindi high maintenance. Diba? So that when you do need somebody to speak with, talk to bounce off your emotions, your ideas, they're there. No? So yun siguro, outside of the routine that you can catch on the previous episode, what I would add to that is a very good, strong support group. So for me, I have my church family. So I go to Favor Church. I have my Connect group. Love them to bits. I have my motorcycling community that are my siblings. They're my sisters through and through. And then I have obviously my family, right? And interestingly for us in All Care is part of our core group. Ewan ko sa ibang teammates ko, ewan ko na. Sa akin, the people in All Care are part of my core group. So minsan, if I'm going through things in the personal side of things, ang sarap kausap ng mga teammates ko kasi yun nga, we provide that environment of trust and communication. No? So, yun, keep a core group close to you and somebody or a number of people that you can really reach out to. So there. So sorry, I forgot to recognize those that are just joining in the middle of the session or the discussion. But tonight's episode was about talking about mental health in the workplace. We did a number of questions that talked about effective mental health topic management and people management in the office. And so I hope you can pick a thing or two from what we've shared. And if you have thoughts or ideas that you can add or you want to share your own experience about dealing and talking about mental health in the workplace, especially as a leader, as an entrepreneur or business owner, feel free to engage. Put it in the chat, put in the comments. The beauty of doing things like this, like content like this, is after we do it, yes, it's live and maybe not a lot of people tune in, but then it goes on the internet. And you know what they say, whatever goes on the internet lives on forever. So months after, days after, weeks after, somebody's going to find this content and watch it. If you engage and you put in a comment and you put your own thoughts there, and it's super relevant, super quality, you have no idea how you might help somebody who needed to hear just what you had to say in the comments. So feel free to put in on the chat, the comments, what your thoughts are, what your comments are. You agree, disagree, you never know who you're going to be helping down the line. So thank you again for watching and tuning in on tonight's episode of Ask Cindy. Again, Ask Cindy is a weekly show we do every Tuesday at 8 p.m. where we take the most relevant questions from entrepreneurs, founders, business leaders, and wannabe entrepreneurs, and share answers to those questions through our own collective experiences. Just to get everybody a heads up, an advantage in their business journey. Allcare, www.allcare.ph. We are the country's first and only digital benefits membership platform that gives you access to holistic, relevant benefits through an affordable membership. Again, my name is Cindy Burdett, CEO and co-founder of Allcare. See you again. Follow us on Allcare. Follow us on our social media channels, Allcare on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Kumu, so you can catch the topic for the next weeks. Thank you again, and God bless you.